Welcome to video number 5 in this series of videos on ASP.NET Dynamic Data. In the last video in this series, we looked at enabling inline editing by using the routing features in ASP.NET Dynamic Data to specify that we wanted to use the list_details.aspx page for list and details actions, and then omitting explicit definitions for edit and insert actions, because those are going to be handled by the list_details.aspx page. In this video, we're going to take the routing mechanism to the next level and enable table-specific action routing in our global.asax file. So let's go ahead, open up the global.asax file, and you'll recall from the previous video that this was the state of our routing sequence. So remembering that the routing is evaluated in a top-down fashion as the routes appear in the global.asax file. So what we had said here was we want to use the list_details.aspx page for the list action and for the details action. In our case, in this demo, what we want to do is we still want to use the inline editing. So we're going to use the list_details.aspx page for all of the tables in our application except the products table, because the products table has lots more fields in it, so it's sort of cumbersome to edit that inline. So whenever they're editing the products table, then we want to give them a separate form to do the editing in. But any other table, we're going to continue to let them do inline editing. So how we're going to do that is let's uncomment the original route that we started with. Right? And so you'll recall that when we started out with our application, before we started modifying routing, we had this sequence where we had table action.aspx, and the actions that were going to be handled by this particular route entry were list, details, edit, and insert, the 4 actions that our application handles. And what Dynamic Data did was route those actions to the list, details, edit, and insert.aspx files. Now, there was this 5th file that was generated for us, list_details.aspx, and that's the one that we were rerouting to. But in our case, we want to say we still want these default handlers to be in place. So we're still going to allow inline editing for all of the tables in our application, except we're going to specifically intercept requests to products for all of the actions, list, details, edit, and insert. And we're going to specify when the table is equal to products. All right, so just need a comma there. And that should be table, not tables. Okay, so what we've said here is that, remember, there's a top-down hierarchy here. So when the request comes in, the routing will be evaluated, and the first thing we're going to say is, hey, if the table equal products, then the route is products action.aspx, and action is either going to be list, details, edit, or insert, which match these files, list, edit, details, or insert.aspx. However, if this route rule is not satisfied, if the table is not equal to products, then we're going to go ahead and drop through and use the default handlers. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. And what you'll see here is that as we select tables, we're going to get a different set of resultant files to handle the tables that we're working with, depending on which one we've selected. So if we start out Of course, by default, we'll get the default.aspx page. Now, if we click on orders, right? Orders, not products. Products is the one that we're specifically hooking. If we click on orders, we'll see that what we'll come up with is the list details view, right? So since the product that the table that we're specifically catching is the products table, and this is not the products table, it's just is using the generic routing that we specified at the bottom, the list details view. However, if we go back to our main page and we select products, now you'll see, as you come up here to the URL, you'll see that we're not in list details anymore. We're in list.aspx because we're being routed by the first entry in our routing collection. Also, if we hit on edit, remember we specified that edit was explicitly one of the actions that were going to be handled, so it's going to be picked up by the edit.aspx file, and here you can see we've navigated to a different form, and our URL is products, because we specified this rule was only in place when we were using the products file, edit.aspx, and the argument provided. So again, we can make whatever edits we need to, update, and then we're back to the list.aspx file. Right? So the important thing to note here, though, is that we chose to use the existing files, but we can use any files that we want. What we've done here is we've enabled table-specific routing in our application, and we can do this with all of the tables that are represented. So if you don't, if you want to have very customized handling of each of the tables in our application, you can do that on a per action basis.